said that we're teetering on World War III. I hadn't heard that before.
Senior Washington correspondent for Voice of America, who's in Milwaukee and listened to the whole speech. Very good evening to you, Carolyn. Thanks for staying up for us, first of all, on Times Radio.
Not a problem, Dermot. And good morning to you, too.
Now,
I was actually on the floor of the convention, hearing the entire speech. And like you said, it was 90 minutes.
Right. And so, I mean, just tell us, let's start because we finished there with the sign-off. And compared to some of the stump speeches and indeed the acceptance speech he made back in the 2016 campaign, there was a bit of kind of optimism and sunlight to hope for.
Well, what was extremely different, though, in this speech was the first 30 minutes were given to what happened on Saturday with that attempted assassination. And as you mentioned, it was extremely compelling to hear it from his side, what he was feeling, what he was seeing, and then being a bit reflective. You know, it was a different Donald Trump tonight. He was subdued. He spoke slower than he normally does. And the first 30 minutes were very much reflective, like I mentioned, as to Saturday, how it happened. You all already played his clip of when that whiz came by his ear. He knew it was a bullet. And I have never heard Donald Trump invoke religion as much as he did in this speech. Of course, that is a tenet of most Republicans, but for Donald Trump to mention religion as much as he did, a lot of people were talking, has it changed him?
Yeah.
A near-death experience, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It would change you and me probably. So maybe it has. But then he became the regular Donald Trump. Kind of halfway through his speech, he kind of got his groove back, kind of got his energy back, and then it became a laundry list of what he's going to do for a second term.
Right, well, talk us through the laundry list. He said he made America great again. It's obviously had 4 years when, in his estimation, it's gone back downhill. So it's make America great once again.
Right. And that would include lowering inflation, getting us out of foreign wars, and specifically Ukraine and Russia, and also in Israel. He said those would have never happened on his watch, which he has said before in rallies. He said that he will stop the crime and the drugs coming across the border since it is an open border. He will deport people. He said he'll just make sure that everyone is happy again in this country and everyone is doing well. What was unique about this convention, if I could mention this too, is that it was more inclusive. Now, a lot of the analysts thought that Donald Trump would have a message of unity throughout this speech. He mentioned unity, but more like in passing. He mentioned it at the very end of the speech in that clip that you played, and also at the very beginning of the speech. But he did mention how much more inclusive the party is. And we saw that with the speeches. Many people of color and many people of different religions also spoke at this convention. So that is one difference in the Republican Party looking towards November.
And fewer attacks on the opposition, on the Democrats, in particular the personality of the president himself. In the last campaign, in the 2020 campaign, it was Sleepy Joe. Could now be perhaps, semi-senile Joe in his estimation. He only mentioned him once. What can we read into that?
Right. And remember, he said, and that's the only time I'm going to mention him, which was surprising. But then again, there's a lot underneath the surface here in this country. A lot of Democrats are reaching out to the president saying, please step down. Please don't run again. And of course, with his COVID diagnosis from yesterday, that just increases the drumbeat, because I don't know if you all saw the video of him stepping off Air Force One, but there was a lot of talk about that here and just how fragile he's looking. Of course, with COVID, he would be fragile, but again, very prominent Democrats have come forward. Barack Obama, most recently, is suggesting that. And we don't know when this ends. We don't know what will happen. So maybe former President Trump thought that it may have happened before his speech, and that's why he only mentioned him once. I don't know. I'm just a reporter. I don't really know. I didn't write the speech. So.
But could it also be, a deliberate political tactic? The Republican estimation is that Joe Biden, as he is well beatable, and they want to keep him there. They don't want to destabilize him.
Well, and like you said, it was more a positive speech. We're going to win this. We're going to take back the White House. We're going to take back America. We're going to make America strong again. We're going to make America safe again. all those different mottos came through in Trump's speech tonight. And so they'll just take it out to the American public now. They're crisscrossing the country. Both he and JD Vance, now top of the ticket, they have both men up there.
What was it like then? You say you were on the floor. How did it go down amongst the delicate delegates? None of the chants of "lock her up" that used to punctuate previous campaigns. It was win, win, win. A bit of fight, fight, fight.
Yes, and also when he said, "I am not supposed to be here," and they said, "Yes, you are. Yes, you are." That was a new chant that we hadn't heard before, and during this week. But I can tell you, you could have heard a pin drop when the former president was describing how he felt and what he experienced on Saturday. The energy level was low in the room when he began. It was interesting, just the play of events that happened here. We had Kid Rock singing, which really pumped up the crowd. And then we had a speaker, and then we had former President Trump. And that beginning, those 30 minutes were very somber, very subdued. And then he slowly ramped it up, right, to when the audience was more with him in the chanting. And when those balloons fell, this crowd was ready to go out and convince all the voters in the country to vote for him. And that's when they really got their energy going with the final songs. We even had an opera singer at the end with all the balloons falling.
And an appearance by most of the extended Trump family. I saw they're including a shout out to the former First Lady. There had been questions beforehand how foursquare she was behind him going for the White House again.
Well, this was the first time we saw her all week. So that was peculiar. We always looked toward the president's box. He had various family members with him. And first time we have seen Melania Trump this week was tonight. We saw her walk to the box. So the spotlight was on her when she first arrived. And then, of course, his mention during his speech.
And just in terms of the policies, there were some pretty big promises there, things that presumably you can't really influence: halving inflation, getting interest rates down, millions more jobs. It all seems to, be happening almost magically, but it went down, I'm guessing, like manna from heaven on the floor.
Right, because it seemed like a laundry list. So as he just listed them, then everyone cheered, right? I was kind of struck by what he said about war. I'm going to read you this just from my notes. When he said that we're teetering on World War III, I hadn't heard that before. And I'm going to find his exact quote here, if you give me a minute. "A growing specter of conflict hangs over Taiwan, Korea, and the Philippines. Our planet is teetering on the edge of World War III. This will be a war no other because of the weapons." That was concerning. He did mention that. So I think partially, he does want to get us being the United States, out of the wars in foreign countries. So I know that's of a concern of Europe. He wants Europe to step up and pay their fair share to support various allies in those wars.
Great talking to you, Caroline. Thank you very much indeed for taking us through in so much detail there. President Trump's almost exactly 90-minute speech to the RNC, the Republican National Convention there in Wisconsin. That's Caroline Presutti, senior Washington correspondent for Voice of America.